Hello, thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I wish I could be there in person, particularly since I've spent a lot of time in Hong Kong and thoroughly enjoy being there with my friends, colleagues, and all the activities that Hong Kong has to offer. My name is Lawrence Gerstein. Today I'm going to talk to you about sports and youth. And here are some of the topics that I will cover. First, why do kids play sports? Youth and sports, the benefits of youth playing sports, sports for youth development programs, which is a particular framework of conducting sport programs with youth, the HD project, programs that I've conducted with Lindsay Blum and Larry Judge around the world, and some results of those programs. I'm going to share some resources with you that those of you who have never done this kind of work might find helpful, and perhaps those of you who have done this work might find meaningful as well. And then I'll share some brief conclusions with you. So first, why do kids play? Obviously, to have fun. They also play because they want to win. They want to be with their friends. They experience a lot of excitement from playing sports, and they play sports to become physically fit. There are a number of benefits of youth playing sports, and I'm going to mention just some of them, but there are numerous benefits. Physically, it's been found that it lowers the risk of various health conditions. Psychologically, youth can learn how to handle strong emotions, including anger, loneliness, and jealousy through playing sports. Socially, sports is a great place for youth to make friends, and it's been found that they're less likely to engage in violence if they play sports, and perhaps even less likely to bully other kids. Academically, there are benefits as well. For instance, it's been found that it improves their grades and their behavior in school. It lowers their rates of school dropout as well if they play sports. Sports for Youth Development is a specific framework for using sport to promote positive outcomes, including the development of youth. It involves developing youth's life skills. The life skills are not automatic from participation in sports. Activities and discussion about life skills must be deliberate and intentional by the sport professional. It also involves a mastery-focused climate, meaning the goal is to foster growth in the youth as an athlete and as a person. The emphasis is on learning and effort. Every athlete or student is considered an important part of the team or an activity in the Sports for Youth Development framework. What I just shared with you are some of the goals of our Sport for Social Change and Peace programs that I'll be discussing later on. Our team collaborates with sport professionals to develop healthy youth who make good choices and become good citizens. Our team of professionals is comprised in part of a sport and peace psychologist and a coach educator. There are different types of sports for youth development programs, and I'm going to talk about the three major types. Coulter identified three types. First is sport. This is just playing, and the expectation is that youth development will happen. In other words, there's no intentionality of trying to enhance the youth's development through the sport. The assumption is if they play, they'll develop. Sport Plus is the second type of sport for youth development program. This is the approach that we take in our projects and programs. It involves the use of sport along with non-sport related education. Sport Plus programs are predominantly focused on developing and sustaining sport organizations to meet sport-specific objectives, while also using sport to address larger social issues. The third type of sport for youth development program is called Plus Sport. Plus Sport places emphasis on social or health programs where sport is used with youth to achieve the program's goals. The key components of both the Sport Plus and the Plus Sport programs are as follows. When conceptualizing and implementing these programs, you must be deliberate and intentional to achieve your goals. Second, the program should be educational and fun. And third, they should be designed to build on individual and organizational assets and capacity. I want to give you an overview now of the programs that I've conducted with Lindsay Blum and Larry Judge. And these are Sport for Social Change and Peace programs. As I said earlier, our programs are guided by a Sport Plus structure. The programs are grounded in the HD model, youth development, systems, social cognitive, self-determination, empowerment, transformative mediation, positive coaching, and intergroup contact theories and research. Some of the primary goals of our programs include enhancing sport professionals' positive coaching skills, teaching professionals to integrate life skills with sports, strengthening the sport and life skills of youth through sports, including teaching them peace building or conflict prevention and resolution skills, involving a larger number of marginalized adults and youth in sports, and improving relationships between diverse groups and reducing violence between these individuals. We closely collaborate with our stakeholders when conceptualizing, implementing, and evaluating our programs. We rely on a train-the-trainer model, meaning the adults we train are prepared to train other adults and educate their youth players and students. In all of our programs, we've used an experiential learning approach that blends education, discussion, and teachable moments in a classroom and sport-based setting. Our participants in our programs are sport administrators, coaches, and teachers, and also male and female youth ages 8 to 16 years old. We bring in youth players for the professionals to implement their newly learned skills. We ask the professionals to implement the program in their community and to teach other professionals as well. We've conducted these programs in elementary schools in the United States and other contexts in countries outside of the United States. Today, I'm going to briefly highlight our Sport Plus HD programs in Jordan, Tajikistan, and India. Before I discuss our programs in those three countries, I want to share with you briefly an overview of HD. So HD, or human development, as it's called, has a number of purposes. The main purpose of HD programs is to develop responsible, respectful, peaceful, healthy, and community-engaged adults and youth as leaders through sport, like soccer, for instance. Another purpose is to keep young players involved in a sport longer to promote their effective life skills. What is HD? As I said it a minute ago, HD stands for human development. The HD program strives to have sport administrators, coaches, and teachers not only develop sport skills, but also life skills in their youth. This next slide illustrates the HD model. There are 5 themes shown in this particular model. They represent the life skills that we often focus on in our programs, including social inclusion, conflict prevention and resolution, or peaceful living, leadership, responsibility and integrity, and wellness. In terms of conflict prevention and resolution, or peace building or peaceful living, we teach the adults how to teach their youth, players, and students the following skills: active listening, respect, empathy, finding common ground, and problem solving. How does HD work? The sport professionals implement the 5 themes through activities within their own school, sport club, or community. Each activity has a sport and human development theme. The activities are designed for 6 to 16-year-olds. The sport professionals then follow up with the youth in the next practice or class on the effectiveness of each activity and the lessons that had been taught. The HD curriculum includes activities that will help youth better understand the pillars of conflict prevention and resolution, or peace building, that I mentioned a few minutes ago. They include active listening, respect, empathy, finding common ground, and problem solving. One component of all the HD activities is the conflict resolution bench. The purpose of this bench is explained to the youth before they start a practice. The bench itself can be adapted for all sports. I'm going to focus today on soccer. So what we do is we create a bench to the side of the field where the players in conflict go to sit. So if players have a conflict, the professional will ask them to go over to the bench and to have some conversation. On the bench, these persons are required to discuss their conflict with one another until they fully understand each other and find common ground. Let me go back and remind you that before they've gone to this bench, they've learned those basic pillars of conflict resolution that I've shared with you earlier: active listening, respect, empathy, finding common ground, and problem solving. So again, they are required to discuss their conflict with one another until they fully understand each other and find common ground. When the players accomplish these 2 tasks, they go back to one of the activity leaders, for instance, the coach, or another youth athlete, and they explain to these people their understanding of each other's position on the conflict, the common ground they've established, and how they will prevent the conflict from happening again in the future. Another thing that's important in relation to this conflict resolution bench is that all the players, not only the ones that were in conflict, are asked to share out loud or on paper individually one conflict resolution skill, like active listening, they agree to use in the coming week in another setting. Each player states a goal must be held accountable. So the adult leader or coach must check in with the players at the next session or class. At the beginning of practices or classes, the leader, like the coach, asks all the athletes or students for specific examples of conflict resolution behaviors, like empathy, they learned in practice or class that they used in other settings. Let me give you an example, a concrete example of how we've integrated conflict resolution and prevention skills with soccer and youth practicing soccer. This particular HD activity is called Uphill Battle. This activity is designed to improve the soccer skills of the youth and also to teach them peace building or conflict prevention and resolution skills. The sport professionals learn in the classroom about this activity, and they also practice it in the classroom and on the field. They also learn how to teach in the classroom and on the field the youth peace building behaviors. So in other words, they learn, the adults learn how to teach these skills, and then they teach them to their youth athletes and students. This is a soccer activity that is not designed for the team to win. So here's the way the practice is set up. One player, as you can see in the middle of the screen, has to defend a cone, while the other 3 players have to try to hit the cone with the ball. There's a 10-foot invisible radius around the cone, so the defender cannot simply sit on the cone, in other words, go into past the defender and approach the cone. And the offense is not permitted to penetrate the boundary. An additional bonus player is then added to the drill. This individual has an option to either join the offense or the defense. The person is chosen at random from the players who are not currently in the drill. After finishing a round of this activity, the adult leader keeps rotating all the players so they have a chance to participate in the activity 3 different ways. They defend the cone, they attempt to hit the cone, and they serve as the bonus player. The equipment that you need for this particular activity is 1 cone and 3 balls. So the important way that this particular activity is connected to Sport Plus is what you do as the adult leader after the activity is completed. So to connect this activity to peace-building life skills, when it ends, the sport professional asks the players or students some questions. And here are some example questions. What do you think the defender was feeling and thinking during this activity? This particular question tries to get the youth players or students to start talking about empathy and experiencing empathy with the defender. Why is it important to not penetrate the boundary around the cone? This particular question asks the players to think about why it's important to respect the rule of not penetrating the boundary. Another question that is asked of the students or athletes: share one example of how you display empathy when you're with your friends or strangers. And finally, a 4th example question is, what 2 actions can you take in the next week to show respect for people that are different than you? So these particular questions that I've shared with you tap into the conflict prevention and resolution skills of empathy and respect. Next, I want to give you a summary of the Sport for Social Change and Peace programs that we've conducted in Jordan, Tajikistan, and India. In these programs, we assisted sport professionals in learning how to integrate technical soccer, basketball, and/or track and field skills with life skills when coaching youth, particularly girls, and in the case of India, also youth with disabilities. We focused on promoting mutual understanding between the groups as well. 20 to 100 female and male sport professionals attended 2 to 5 day programs in each country. These professionals were from rural and urban locations, from different regions of their country, and they varied in their income. Our Jordanian participants identified as Muslim or Christian and were either native-born Jordanians or refugees like Syrians or Palestinians. Our participants in Tajikistan had different ethnic and national backgrounds. For instance, they were Tajiks, Uzbeks, Russians, and Uyghurs, and all were Muslim. Our sport professionals in India were from Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh, and they identified as Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, or Buddhist. We employ didactic and experiential classroom and field activities when implementing our HD Sports Plus programs in these 3 countries. Every day, 20 to 150 male and female youth between the ages of 8 to 16 years old attended our programs, and the sports professional implemented our curriculum with these youth. Our team, meaning the team of trainers, served as the field consultants to these local professionals as they implemented the curriculum. In addition to the in-country programs, 8 to 12 professionals from Jordan and a similar number from Tajikistan were selected to become trainers. Each group of these individuals traveled separately to the United States for a 16-day training and cultural immersion trip designed to strengthen their skills that we taught them in their country and to help them further learn how to conduct the workshops in their own communities and how to engage their communities and start sport leagues. I want to report some very general findings from the surveys, journals, and post-program interviews we used to collect data from the sports professionals in the 3 countries I just mentioned. The professionals thought that the most effective activities involved working with the youth and practicing the skills we had taught them. Further, they reported increases in their leadership skills and their positive coaching behaviors. They also mentioned increases in their knowledge and skill when infusing life skills with sports and engaging youth with disabilities in sport. They reported organizing local coaching workshops, and they created sport opportunities for girls and youth with disabilities. They said they use conflict prevention and resolution skills with their athletes and their students. They told us as well that they engaged parents to support their youth to participate in sport. Lastly, they reported improvements in their relationships with individuals from the United States and with each other, and they increased their mutual understanding for each other. On this slide, you see some useful resources. Perhaps some of these will be helpful to those of you already doing sports for youth development programs, and perhaps those of you not doing sports for youth programs and have an interest in doing them will turn to some of these resources to help you get started. I know it's difficult to read this slide, so I'm very happy to share these resources with you if you email me. Thanks for your attention, and I hope my talk helped you to better understand how you can integrate teaching youth life skills through sports, particularly peace building or conflict prevention and resolution skills. We have found that our work has decreased the conflict and aggression between youth, students, and athletes. It's also changed the way sport professionals interact with their youth and teach their youth. I welcome hearing from you if you're interested in learning more about our work. I hope you enjoy the remainder of this conference. Thanks for your attention.